What is up, ladies and gentle nerds? It's your boy Graham, also known as HamHawks42 on the internet, and today we are looking at yet another random magic card like we like to do here on Overthinking MTG. So let's go ahead and hit that random card button and let's take a look. Today we are looking at Orcish Captain. It is a 1/1 Orc for 1 with an activated ability where you can pay 1 generic, choose a target Orc, flip a coin, opponent calls heads or tails while coin is in the air. If the flip ends up in your favor, that orc gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Otherwise, that orc gets -0, -2 until end of turn. And so, and it actually has some flavor text, which is pretty appropriate, that says there's a chance of winning every battle. So I like this card quite a bit, and actually the more I look at it, the more I realize that the depiction of the Orcish Captain in Return of the King actually looks very similar to this creature, and I wonder if it is if that was an intentional callback, because what we're seeing is a large creature that's kind of a pink shade, that's clearly kind of deformed. It also has some really large markings on its shoulder that look like tattoos that have been scarred into place by either burning or cutting. And it even has them on its head now that I look at it too. So this creature has been through quite a bit, and so it being the captain of an orcish army. All right, and then we can also see behind it in the artwork, there's also ranks upon ranks of of dark figures with these like glowing green eyes that are looking up clearly at their captain, who they're following, presumably into battle. Yeah, and then the flavor text, there's a chance of winning every battle. I absolutely love the talk of a chance within a coin flip. And this is interesting for a couple of different reasons. This card was originally printed in Fallen Empires, which is a card from like back in the golden age of Magic, but it's widely considered a pretty dud set. Like there's just not many really great bombs in it. And I wasn't super surprised when I found out that was the kind of reputation of Fallen Empires, because Fallen Empires gave us clearly Orc Tribal like this, as well as Thrall Tribal, THRULL, which is a tribal deck that actually some friends of mine used to play back in the day, and it was interesting, let's just say. So cards like this, there's a lot of tribal synergies within Fallen Empires, and if we're looking at orcs specifically, I'm sure you're wondering, wait a minute, orcs? Orcs aren't really a tribe in Magic that we see very often, and you're right. In the entirety of the game, there have been 57 orcs printed, and actually the vast majority of those, as best I can tell, were actually printed in Tarkir. So in the various Tarkir blocks, we saw a lot of orcs showing up as members of the Mardu clan. So that's where they are primarily existing. Now, interestingly enough, with that being a large portion of the only 57 orcs that have ever been printed, with so many of them showing up in later sets, Orcish Captain didn't have that many targets. You know, an orc tribal deck did not have that much to work with. And frankly, those old orcs all seem to have a similar motif. And so I'll be honest, I'll kind of pull the curtain back a little bit. I did do a little bit of research on orcs before pressing record on this one, because when I hit the random card button, I had to stop and think for a second, because I knew there was a lot to unpack here. So looking at old school orcs, a lot of them have abilities that say sacrifice a creature to do something. Or like there's one called Orcish Librarian, where you can pay 1 red, tap it, look at the top 8 cards of your library, exile 4 of them at random, and put the other 4 back. Like that's it. That's all it does. I think you get to choose the order that they go in. I could be wrong, but it's just this super weird card that's very chaotic and does very little for you. Like, it doesn't net you cards, and it exiles 4 cards out of your library. Like, you get to dig kinda, but not really. It's bizarre. And so those are the kind of orcs that we're dealing with. And a lot of them are very, very cheap. They're between like 1 and 3 mana each. So they're really inexpensive, and Orcish Captain is certainly no exception. So, well, what's the best case scenario with Orcish Captain? What is the best deck you can put this guy in? You can put him in an orc tribal deck or a deck with changelings, because you know that's an option, because orc is a creature type that changelings are, so that's nice. But that aside, like those kind of tribal shenanigans aside, what else can we do with this guy? Well, Orc Tribal is really the only way to go. Or actually, frankly, it's a 1/1 for 1 in red. If it had haste, it'd be better. Like, it's a strictly worse Raging Goblin if you don't touch the ability, so that's something. But there's this chaotic element where if you flip the coin, and you lose the flip, the orc gets -2 or -0, -2. So a -2 hit on toughness, that's probably going to kill it because a lot of the orcs that we're looking at are fairly cheap, fairly small. So there's this thought that, like, well, there's a good chance that the orcish captain is going to lead them like straight into battle to their death, and that just is what it is. So it's kind of this idea of like, well, are the orders that the orcish captain gives, are they reliable? Do they get the job done? Do they improve the likelihood of winning in a fight? But even then, I want to point out flavorfully, this is kind of interesting because it gives a power boost but not a toughness boost if you succeed. So there's a 50-50 chance that the creature, in this case, Orcish Captain can target himself. So if it does, so if you choose Orcish Captain, flip the coin, there's a chance that he's going to get +2/+0. But on top of that, there's no restriction on how many times you can flip this coin. So there's a 50-50 chance of becoming a 2-1. If you succeed on that coin flip, you can flip the coin again and you got a 50-50 shot of it becoming a 5-1. Now note, because the toughness doesn't increase, a single loss is the death of the creature. So the chances of Orcish Captain trading up, not very high. But if you're running a deck that is friendly to coin flips and running cards like Krark's Thumb, where Krark's Thumb is an artifact that lets you flip a coin multiple times and select which one you want as the result. So if you would flip a coin, you can actually flip 2, and so it just doubles your chances of success. So if you have something like that in play, all of a sudden Orcish Captain can be kind of fun, but it's going to be chaotic. It's going to be awkward. You are going to lose half the time. That's just the nature of the beast. The more you play this card, the more likely you are to lose. Now, the more likely you are to win as well and have those fun moments where you win 3 flips in a row and manage to trade up for, whatever your opponent's 6-drop is. That's a really good feeling when that happens, and it can provide for some really exciting moments. But it's not a recipe to consistently win games. So, what experience are you after in Magic? This is something that I truly believe in. I think it is important to know the kind of experience that you are trying to have. I love cards like this. I would highly recommend that you play with Orcish Captain. Why am I recommending that you play with Orcish Captain? It's not because you're going to win. But I'm recommending that you play with Orcish Captain because you can have fun, crazy moments with your friends. That is something that Magic can bring to the table that a lot of games can't. And Orcish Captain is a great example of a card that can produce one of those moments. It's not likely per se. You got a 50-50 shot of it becoming a 3-1. You have a much better shot of it becoming, well, dead, depending on how many times you do that flip. But yeah, no, and Krark's Thumb, like I mentioned, is a way to drastically improve the odds. I'm no statistician, but it does double the likelihood. I'm fairly confident in saying, and I apologize if I'm getting the vernacular wrong, it doubles the likelihood that you are going to succeed on any individual flip. So what are the chances of this thing becoming a 11-1? I couldn't break that down for you, but it's not great. But if you have enough mana, if you've got 5 mana to sink into it, flip those coins and see what happens. So there is a Hail Mary play where this creature can produce lethal out of nowhere when your opponent decides to not block it. There's also opportunities where it can trade up. And when I say trade up, by the way, what I'm referring to is deal lethal combat damage when it's blocking or when it's attacking, and as a result die at the same time as a much larger creature that your opponent has. And that's something that this thing can theoretically do. I would love to hear if you or anyone you know have any stories of this card. Please leave those in the comment section below. I would love to see it. Yeah, this has been an interesting one. It's an odd card. Also, I'd like to point out that it pairs nicely with a card that I spoke about in one of the very first episodes of this show, which was Chaotic Goo, which I will always remember because the name is Chaotic Goo, and it involves a lot of coin flips. And so I think Orcish Captain and Chaotic Goo would go very nicely in the same deck. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's bizarre. And also, just one look at the artwork, I want to point out something. This creature is holding up its left hand, and it looks like it's just seeing something. Like, in the wall that it's just kind of like chipping at. Like it's idly picking at like the paint on the side of the card frame, and I just find that really funny. Like it looks like it's leading this army, and instead of like giving some rousing speech or being, you know, particularly large and impressive, you know, the follow me, huzzah for freedom or whatever, instead it's just kind of like what's that over there? Let me get that. Anyway, that's what I see when I look at this card. So thanks so much, everybody. This has been a true delight. You can catch me on Twitch, twitch.tv/hamhocks42. I'm over there every weekday morning, 5:30 to 7:30. Don't hesitate to come on, hang out, talk smart, throw out other cards that you'd like to see on this show. I'd love to hear from you. Yeah, thanks so much, and have a wonderful day. Don't forget that you are a good person, and you deserve to be happy.